Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, what's good, y'all? Sorry for the very early occurrence of a new episode of Focus Fights Audio. But still, though, when there's stories hitting the airwaves or stories hitting the mainframe about fighters getting stiffed, and that person just so happens to be somebody who knows somebody that I know, we have to talk about it. So yeah, this is a very special edition of Focus Fights Audio, and I got my good friend Gentleman's Combat, aka Alistair Fleming, looking to talk to us about a fighter who is close to him that ended up getting stiffed by the soon-to-be dead, pretty much rotting out from the corpse lion fight promotion. Mr. Fleming, can you please introduce yourself to the good people of my audience?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alistair Fleming. I am an amateur fighter, professional wrestler, maker of high-quality martial arts and professional wrestling gear. And back when I was living in Orange, I was training with a guy called Jesse Astill. And Jesse Astill has gone on to great things. And he recently fought for the Lion Fight promotion for their World's Muay Thai Championship. And to fucking release spoilers, to jump right into it, he has not been paid what he has been owed for that fight.
And, it is kind of crazy that you mention it because, like you said, he hasn't been paid for the fight. But Lion Fight has been around since 2010. And they have a history of not paying their fighters. They actually have a history of using bounce checks to cover for fighters. And right now I'm basically looking at the Beyond Kickboxing article about it, and it's really sad that this promotion has been around for 13 years, and they've basically been getting away with stiffing fighters left, right, and center. I mean, would you say that your friend Jesse Astill was just, I wouldn't say naive, but did he even know about Lion Fight's history before going to fight for them?
I think it's been sort of an open secret in the Muay Thai world, and we're out here, miles and miles away in Australia, so there's no one in our ear telling us, oh, you've got to fight with X, by the way, make sure you get paid before you leave the building, because, we're not in the same country. Whereas I gather that Scott Kent, the promoter of Lion Fight, has been churning through his reputation in the States. And yeah, it has been sort of a pattern of behavior. So for those that are on Instagram, and if ever you search Muay Thai, one of the first guys that's going to pop up is Liam Harrison. And so he recently said that it took Lion Fight 3 months to cover his pay. And that was, back when the promotion was actually somewhat reputable.
Yeah, of course it was somewhat reputable back then because they had deals with Access TV, the same people that air Impact in the US. They basically had all this fanfare because they had guys like Smoking Joe Nottawood and Yarts and Clyde Fairtex fight for them. And it is kind of crazy to me that they had all this prestige. Oh, and they had Tiffany Time Bomb Van Sos too. They had all this prestige, but they couldn't pay their fighters. They basically treated the sport of Muay Thai like it's a personal plaything.
I think I'm gonna play amateur psychologist here, but
Okay.
I think there is, especially in I wouldn't say especially in combat sports, but in combat sports and just in business in general, there's been this fetishization of the Silicon Valley method of faking it until you're making it, of just trying to stay ahead of your debts. And then one day, it's all going to come together. One day, you'll be worth $1 billion. One day, it's all going to magically happen for you. You can it doesn't matter who you burn through. It doesn't matter what debts you build up in the meantime. That promised land is coming. And rather than, sticking to solid business fundamentals of going, this event is going to cost me X to put on, that means I can pay X for the fighters, and I need Y people to come through the door, and thinking in terms of that, a lot of promoters are thinking, 10 years from now, I'm going to be a billionaire, so it doesn't matter if I don't pay this guy from Australia today because I'll get him back then. And I don't think it's deliberate. I don't think that Scott Kent, the promoter of Lion Fight, thinks, I'm ripping these people off. I'm pretty sure he wants to be famous. He wants to be fucking Dana White. And he's just not thinking in terms of like solid business fundamentals of I need to be able to pay for all of this. He's thinking this is just a stepping stone. This is just, you know, the next thing. We can just keep it going. I just need my next event. I just need my next event. It'll all come together. And it doesn't fucking come together. It never will.
I mean, of course it doesn't come together because you're too busy basically signing. I mean, let's just say you're signing big guys for records. I already mentioned, you know, Yachts and Cly and Nata Woods. And I think Sidichai Sitsampinong also fought for Lion Fight. And I know that Kevin Ross and Tetsuya Yamato fought for Lion Fight as well. Obviously, I've interviewed Kevin Ross before. But still, though, when it comes down to stuff like Muay Thai in this country, in the United States, it is not going to sell well because it's not boxing, it's not MMA, it's barely kickboxing. I mean, you're not going to get many people in the door just by, you know, showing off the art of the 8 limbs.
Yeah, I think you can promote combat sports very well. I think that if you know the area you're getting into, if you know how, like, where you need to put up your posters, what gyms you need to talk to, you can sell out a combat sport event and pay everyone, like, a reasonable amount. You just need to actually be decent at promoting. And that is becoming less and less common in fight promotion. There's sort of this expectation that either the internet will do the job for you, or if you simply just do ticket commission with your fighters will do the job for you. Or worse and worse is I won't pay my people, but, you know, they'll get by an exposure and, you know, they'll also sell my tickets. They'll do all the work for me. There's this offloading of the work of being a fight promoter onto the other members of the fucking the business, rather than, you know, it's literally in the job description. You are a fight promoter. You need to make this fight that people want to watch a story worth going and seeing, because people don't want to see the best fighters in the world. They want to see people that they know. So if you're not spending every minute leading up to an event going, this is Jesse Astill, he's coming all the way from Australia, he's fucking great, he's got X titles and whatever, and he's fighting our guy, Stephen Walker, he's the previous Lion Fight champion, here's him head-kicking someone to death last time. If you're not spending every absolute second of your time doing that, you're not being a promoter. You're just putting on fights. You're a matchmaker. And you already hire someone to do that. Like, what the fuck's the point?
Basically, what am I trying to say? Basically, you're getting guys like Astill flying all the way, halfway around the world.
Yeah.
To take an ass whooping from the local guy.
Yeah. Like, I get bringing in an international guy, but how many tickets is Jesse going to sell in Vegas? If you went to Orange or where he lives now, he'd sell out the fucking building and it'd be worth it. But, like, there's no point just having international competitor on there. It's just clout. It's not going to do anything for you business-wise. And then you don't even fucking pay him. So, I talked to Jesse. He says that most of it's been covered in the Beyond Kick or his Instagram. His flights got paid for, which is, you know, one thing, but I think that was kind of deliberate on Scott's part, because he's paid for his flights, has made sure that Jesse's out of the country the day after the fight show, so he can't chase him up for the money that he's owed. So Jesse's owed part of his purse, and accommodation and medicals for the event.
Oh, damn, that is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
and I mean, not... how long did he have to do before he even got paid for that?
He has not been paid. He's out the medical bill and he's out the accommodation. He's all right because he's a smart businessman. He runs his own personal training fucking business, whatever, does meal plans for people, makes up exercise plans for people, does that quite well. So he's not broke. But there are other people who are only fighters who have fought for Lion Fight and ended up fucked, just completely out on their ass with no money. I'm blanking on her name, but she had to sell the fucking title belt. Who is this one?
Tiffany Van Soest.
Tiffany Van Soest. She had to sell her fucking title belt on eBay in order to make fucking rent. If this is a world fucking Muay Thai championship, if this is a promotional fight championship, this is fucking unacceptable. This is just amateur bush league shit you'd expect from a guy running a pro wrestling organization, not from a guy running events in fucking Vegas. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and you can basically make the comparisons all you want. I mean, either way, no matter what type of promotion you run, whether it be combat sports or concerts, you're all going to have promoters. You're gonna have people milking the money for themselves and then not have a good return on investment. You're also going to have people who basically say, oh, this concert's coming to this city and it's going to happen then, and we're going to have all these people come in the building. I mean, let me go ahead and tell you, this is their only event this year. I think they had a schedule of shows that they were going to do, and they didn't even pay off the venues. And last year, in my neck of the woods, where I'm 15 minutes away from the venue, they were supposed to have a show in my neck of the woods at the local wrestling arena, which is 15 minutes away from my house where I'm sitting right now. And they didn't even have an event there. They just canceled outright without even really telling the fighters or the fans anything. They had to tell Fight TV, their streaming provider, before then, just to even get that going.
It's ridiculous. And I'm not sure why. This is something that I have run into a few times, not necessarily myself, but with other people who are in wrestling or combat sports, that like there won't be open and honest communication on the part of the promoter. Like they'll completely fuck something and then just refuse to mention it. Just pretend that everything's all right in the hope that it's all going to come together, that it'll all be okay, that they're going to find something on the last day at the last minute. You're not. Like, I'm gonna tell a personal story here, so we're gonna bring it back. This is Storm Damage. Storm Damage is an excellent promotion run by Storm MMA out in Canberra. They do pro-am shows. He had been working to get this show together with, like, in the year of the New South Wales Combat Sports Authority, making sure he had the venue booked, making sure everything was all right, and he had that show locked sight. Like, he had submitted everything 6 months before to make sure that we were all going to be there on time. And he only got the clearance for it that day after ringing fucking, like, every other hour, every other day for 2 weeks leading up to. So, if you're not on as a fucking combat sports promoter, if you're not doing your job properly, things are not going to work out for you. You're going to get screwed one way or another, even if you're, technically doing everything right. You need to have done everything right 6 months ago in order to get things to happen. We were actually running the same night as another promotion, which was Brace. Now, Brace used to be a big deal in Australia. They were on Channel 10 at like 1 p.m., 1 in the morning, but it was still national TV. You could still watch MMA on your fucking terrestrial television and sit down. That was like a big deal. And Storm was fucking furious because he told them what nights he was running in Canberra, like, don't double book us. They still fucking double booked on him. And then he's like, they're not going to make it. It's too hard this time. Like, somebody had gotten hurt quite badly at a previous event. And so, like, combat sports were really, really on it, and they were being sticklers. And he's like, there's no way that guy's going to actually run this show. And so he'd sold tickets, he'd booked the venue, he had fighters booked and whatever. And then the day we all went into weigh-ins, he's like, he had the biggest shit-eating grin on his face that I've ever seen a man have. And I love Storm, and I'm like, what's going on? It's just like, Brace is cancelled. I knew they fucking couldn't. Because even if you're doing everything right, in inverted commas, it's still hard to run fucking combat sport events. And there's too many people who are in here with dreams of being Vince McMahon or fucking Dana White who don't understand, like, the expertise required to actually run an event, don't have the organizational fucking acumen to run an event. And then even if you have those two, like, then they're fucking grifters like Scott Kent, who aren't paying everybody.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm basically looking at this right now on Instagram from the guy that fought Jesse Astill,
Mm.
Steve Stop Sleeping or Put Him to Sleep Walker. And he basically said he had to quit because Lion Fight didn't pay him 10,000. He had to struggle just to get through the training camp to fight Astill, $10,000, and then had to basically pay his bills and was only able to celebrate the holidays last year. Well, I think this year too, because of his gym and his family and his coach. And now he's down 13 grand US.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
you can't. Like, obviously you can because he's fucking done it, but like, I don't understand the thought process required to go into a show on the day and not have the money required for it. So I'm gonna throw somebody else under the bus today. There was
okay.
an event not long ago. It was called Wrestle Queerdom, and it's a great idea. So it was a gathering
I think
of
I've,
oh
I think I've heard of this.
yeah,
Wrestle Queerdom is a gathering of some of the best LGBTQ plus professional wrestlers there is.
yeah,
But what happened there?
all together on one event at one place at one time. You know, it was going to be a big deal. The promoter for that event was just a fan, just didn't know what they were doing, and just had these thoughts that it was all going to work out. Everyone was going to buy tickets to this event because, you know, it's Wrestle Queerdom. Why would they not? I'm a fan of all of these people. I'll buy that ticket. You don't necessarily know. Like, I know that I'm just a gremlin who's into shoot style. I know there's like 60 of us in the whole of Australia. I know I can't put on a $10,000 event and make my money back. And I definitely can't put on a $10,000 event, go into debt to do it, and expect to pay everybody. I need to run like a low-level show. But because there's this dream of being a big promoter, of running a big show, of running a second show, people will promise the world. They will make thousands of promises. They will promise thousands of dollars. They will promise everything to everybody and then worry about making it a reality later on, which is just completely arse backwards. And that's what happened to Wrestle Queerdom. The cameraman didn't get paid. Half the wrestlers didn't get paid. The only one who did were like flown in from Japan and had demanded their payment up front. Like, that's the only person who I think made money apart from the venue at Wrestle Queerdom. The rest of it was just gone.
Mm,
And
that sucks.
yeah, and it's worse. It's just, you can't. I don't understand it. I can't understand looking at trying to run an event and thinking anything else than, I need to have all the money for this up front. Because if that's not your thinking, it will catch up on you at the same way it might be after one event, it might be after 75 events in the case of Lion Fight, but it's gonna catch up onto you and you will go under.
And I mean, and when it comes down to Wrestle Queerdom, I mean, I have respect for those in can really go out and showcase themselves to the world to prove, hey, we just want to be accepted just like everybody else. But there are some promotions that just have all-in dreams with a Heroes of Wrestling budget. Now, I'm pretty sure you remember the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view from like 25 years ago, right?
They don't even have the Heroes of Wrestling budget. They don't have the money. There's not even that level of like dollars lying around. Heroes of Wrestling, I think everybody managed to get out of the building with their purse. Just the event never happened again because it was a piece of dog shit. But you need to build. Like, if you're coming into wrestling, wrestling's fucking easy. You can rent a bingo hall for $75, find 5 local guys, run a 4-man tournament and a fucking tag team, and then there you go. You put on an event. You can run it on mats. You can do it cheaply. You can still pay everybody, as long as you're willing to start small and accept what you are. It is the delusions of grandeur, the idea that your event's going to be the best event straight out of the gate, rather than understanding that the UFC wasn't the UFC when it first started. It was, an investment. It was an infomercial. Fucking Hoyron and Art Davey had a good amount of money lying around. Like, do you think that Hoyer and Gracie actually paid Hoist that $50,000? Or do you think he just let him live in his house?
Now, you're talking about the first UFC event.
Yeah, that
which,
first
by
one.
the way, happened 30 years ago.
Exactly. So, like, think about it. If you're Hoyer and Gracie, and the guy who won your event that you put on is your little nephew, are you going to pay that guy the $50,000 that it was on the big check?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, so, like, even Hoyer, he knew what he was doing. He'd set that up so that Hoist would win. You don't have to pay Hoist, he's family. The thing is, like, you'll get that in fight promotions. You'll get that in wrestling promotions. They will create the illusion of family, that you're all a family here, you're all going to look out for each other. That's just an excuse to exploit you, to take stuff away. Oh, you wouldn't hold me up for this money? We're a family here. You know, you understand that I'm having a hard time putting everything together. I gave you great opportunities to go out there and show your stuff. We're family. It's just these excuses and upon excuses by promoters to fuck over the people who put on their show. Because if there's no fighters, if there's no wrestlers, if there's no musicians, there is no show.
Mm.
And they're not necessarily the first people that will get left behind, but they're the easiest ones too. Because they don't have money for lawyers. I'm not going to go to fucking small claims court over the $30 I got stiffed the other week. Like, and well, we'll get into some more of that later. But it's usually amounts that are small enough for it not to be worthwhile chasing, or the person's too broke to chase you up. So they're easy to rip off.
Right, of course. And I mean, come to think of it, we talk about budgets. I mean, come to think of it, no, what am I trying to say? You obviously remember the hype and the build-up and the prestige behind the match last year in Japan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the...
I mean...
Oh, yeah, continue.
Mm-hmm.
That was...
I mean, it took basically 3 different promotions, Rise, and K1, and Shoot Boxing to an extent. But those 4 promotions basically had to put everything together just to make sure this event wasn't doomed to fail. I mean, they did everything they could except distribute it out to folks around the world, but it was still a success.
Did the match get fucked over by Sakaki Bara's Yakuza connections? Was that the one that had to get transferred over to Fight TV at the last notice?
Yes, but even Fight TV didn't want that.
Oh yeah, that had to get swapped over, and then they found a way to make half decent money from the pay-per-view. But even then, like, it's still the same nonsense. It's still people just have their dicks in combat sports for no reason. Like, in Japan, there is always that question about whether or not the event that you're going to is run by, you know, a member of the fucking Miyazaki Gumi or whatever it is, you know, whichever family is controlling that part of Tokyo. I remember, so one, obviously, Pride was under the thumb of the Yakuza for such a amount of time, which led to their eventual destruction because of their treatment of Fedor's and Mirko Krokop's manager. But I remember Rion Fujiwara. So he is a Australian wrestler, shoot name Rion McAvoy. He wrestles for Glate, and shows up elsewhere. He had a match with Yoshiaki Fujiwara where Fujiwara, like, bestowed upon him the name. He has this lovely little blog series, called Rion's Writings, where he talks about sort of some Japanese history from the view of a West, and then talking about his original wrestling promotion that he came up in under Tajiri. Tajiri didn't know, but, like, their investor was
called Wrestling New Classic, right?
Potentially. Give me a second. I'll have a little look if I can find it. Rion.
It was called Smash at first, then called Wrestling New Classic.
Yeah. That was for a while, there was like a money mark behind that. So someone who just loves wrestling, just throwing money at it, expecting that at some point it's going to give the money back. It never did, because it's wrestling. Eventually, that person dropped out and stopped paying Tajiri money, and so Tajiri is looking for another investor. And then someone in the same building as their school starts sort of paying for events or giving them money to pay extra events. And then Rion got hired as a translator for a businessman. So he goes to meet this businessman, and he goes, hold on, I'm at the same building where my wrestling school is. What the fuck's going on? Goes upstairs and just walks straight into this Yakuza office, because he sees the guy and he's seen his picture in newspapers, and he's like, oh, this is the guy that's now owns our wrestling organization. Fuck. So eventually they got out of that business deal, and Tajiri didn't get stabbed with a piss-soaked knife, thankfully. But, like, combat sports, it's either an idiot who doesn't know what they're doing, it's a fighter who barely knows what they're doing and has no money, which is the case of Storm and most of the promotions in Australia. Or it's, organized crime. And the reason kickboxing used to be huge in Australia. It used to be a huge deal after, like, we had a lot of guys have great success in K1. So we had Sam Greco, I'm blanking on names here, Stan the Man Longdonitis.
Wayne Paul.
Yeah. Adam Watt, and all of those guys went over to K1, and they Peter Graham sort of later in that period, but still sort of the same thing. And we started having bigger and bigger kickboxing events in Australia, and it was a really good deal until there was.
Come to think of it, wasn't Mark Hunt also a big star in Australia, or is it because of the fact that he's a Kiwi New Zealander?
We do that. We steal anybody of talent from New Zealand. We sort of claim as our own, on the world stage. If you put us in the room with an Australian and a New Zealander in the room, walk away, come back 10 minutes later, we'll be fist fighting, put an Australian, New Zealander, and anybody else in the room, we'll have beaten up that guy. That's sort of what goes on. Yeah.
I mean, come to think of it, I'm surprised that Michael Schiavello got out of those things unscathed.
Exactly. But, well, he almost didn't. So there was an event that was called the Ballroom Blitz. And I think it was 2006. Give me a second. Ballroom Blitz. Australian kickboxing. 2006. Alrighty. That event had significant underground fucking bikey connections. And so they paid for this thing to go on. They had their favorite fighter on that show. And then people from a rival bikey gang rocked up. And 5 people got taken to the hospital, either shot or stabbed. And $40,000 worth of damage got done to the event. Event premises. So
I think I remember hearing about this because they didn't even finish up the event, did they?
Oh no, it just got fucked. Just not like in Holland where, the brawl will break out, they'll settle everybody down and then they'll finish the match. No, this just went completely nuts. And you don't know which one you'd rather. Would you rather everybody get paid but not know where the money's coming from? Or would you rather, go to an event, know who the guy is, know that at least you're not going to get stabbed accidentally because you beat the wrong guy, but then you're going to have to chase up the promoter for the next 6 months about getting paid? It's swings and roundabouts.
Right, of course. But I mean, to be honest, it just basically leads to a lot of these promoters thinking, hey, I could possibly be. I mean, it's not just actual businessmen, it's former fighters too. I mean, I think there was a case 5 years ago this month where the World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation was ran by Boss Roots, and he basically had this entire card. He had this tournament that was supposed to happen with a bunch of guys at 135 pounds. And it was supposed to be the dawning of bare knuckle boxing in the States after, of course, a century-old, outage, so to speak. But still, though, you remember hearing about the WBKFF story, didn't you? I mean, don't you?
No, you'll have to tell me that one, I'm afraid.
Oh,
I remember
right.
that BKFC killed somebody. Whoever it is that keeps letting Frank Mir fight is going to have his blood on their hands not too long in the future. But tell me about Bus Root and Squad.
Yeah, but still though, the event happened again 5 years ago this month. I think 5 years ago, 5 years and like 2 weeks ago. But still though, the fight card happened in Wyoming because they couldn't get clearance for a true venue. Then after the fight happened, everybody kept turning to Boss Rutan saying, "Hey, when are we gonna get paid? When are we gonna get our money?" Boss Rutan basically said, yeah, you're gonna have to come back with me in 2 weeks, and I will get you your money, okay? Godspeed, buddy on." And basically all this chaos happened. The promoter, Thomas Stankiewicz, ended up getting time behind bars for a $2.4 million fraud scheme.
Ah!
And yes. And what's worse, the management team of Phil Baroni, who, by the way, is now a convicted felon because he murdered his wife in Mexico, but still, though, the team for Phil Baroni basically complained on one of the videos of this basically one of the first couple of videos of Focus Fights on YouTube is an interview video with the people behind Future Legend talking about why Phil Baroni hadn't got paid. And it was like weeks after the whole damn thing happened. So basically, the WBKFF, who had all this money, they got Kenny Rice and Boss Rutan doing commentary. They had Jimmy Lennon Jr. doing ring announcing, and we all know how classy and prestigious he is.
Yeah.
They basically shat the bed when it came down to, paying the fighters up front and running a stable operation. That was basically promotional malpractice right in front of our eyes the second the damn national anthem ended.
Look, they never had the money. They had some. They had an amount. They had enough to, pay down payments on everybody. But I'm thinking, the man's been arrested for fraud, so maybe he thought he was going to launder a bunch of money through it. But again, I think it comes down to those delusions of grandeur, that belief that you're going to make it, we're all going to make it, bruh, or whatever. You're going to somehow turn this thing around, even though you don't have the base required to actually run a show. And, some places running a show is quite difficult. Other places you can run a show for no money and still come out ahead. But you've got to have, that amount. You can't just have the down payments for everybody. It's not a fucking house. You can't pay 5% now and then put yourself in debt for 20 years. You have to be able to actually afford the event that you're going to run. Otherwise, there will be a tragedy. Whether or not it's on your first one, yeah, like I said, event 1, event 75, it's always going to come back on you.
And come to think of it, you did mention that BKFC killed a guy in the ring. Do you remember exactly who that was?
God, BKFC death. Justin Thornton, there you go, 38 years old.
That was damn near 2 years ago.
Yeah. And, so even the biggest promotions in the world are not immune to this hubris. So Dana White, notorious wife beater and idiot, bald, steroid-using man, is running a show that's going to kill somebody at some point. There has already been one recorded death in slap fighting. It's just lucky that it's not been on Power Slap. Yeah, and so it's not even as if these people that are aspirational targets for promoters have the magic touch. They just got lucky with particular circumstances at a particular time. Even Dana has the hubris that, everything he touches is going to turn to gold. And he's pumped Power Slap for all he's worth. And no one gives a shit, or everyone actively hates it. No one likes Power Slap.
Of course nobody likes Power Slap.
Yeah.
There's no defense in Power Slap. There's no way you can punch a guy, kick a guy, submit a guy or girl. It's just basically you taking hits.
Yeah,
Seriously.
You are trading brain cells for money at that point. And it's not even life-changing money. If I worked for my current job, It's a 2-week paycheck at my current job, and my job is not prestigious, and I don't work full time. Like, there's no reason to do that show. And yet, people will, because there's the dream that, this is going to turn into MMA, this is going to make me viral, this is going to fucking, make something out of me as a fighter. It never will. It will just take away, memories of your childhood.
Yeah, not just memories of your childhood, but memories of your future relatives.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say? It's basically, slap fighting in a way, it's just a pipeline to dementia and potentially CTE.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But, that won't stop Dana from holding up that BKFC death and going, oh, look, this will never happen in the UFC. It is a miracle that people have not died in the UFC. There's been promotional malpractice there fucking top to bottom, and it's getting worse. And, I could go on an hour-long rant about the watering down of the product and the fact that they're not paying people what an MMA fighter is worth at that level. But mind you, I've started the rant. We're gonna finish it. All right, Alistair's gonna rant for 5 to 10 minutes on the state of the UFC. I hope you're all ready.
Go ahead.
Alrighty.
This is a fight show.
As a fighter, when I started, I think the first event that I watched live was UFC 263. So that was Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman, where he knocked out Silva, and that was a point where if I looked at a UFC card, I could go down to the person at the absolute bottom of the prelims, and Fight Pass had just come out. It was a great time to be a fight fan. I could look at them and I could follow their career from the regionals to the UFC and see a quality fighter develop and see their career become something, and I could attach to every single fighter on a card. Some people were saying it was watered down at that point, which is, arguable and perhaps agreeable, because they've started running more and more events. Because I know that I watched Max Holloway from the prelims all the way through to his championship. Mm-hmm. And at that same time, I was like, this is incredible. I'm going to start trying to do this. And so I started training. At that point, making it to the UFC meant something. It doesn't anymore. Because you get guys who are 4-2 or 3-0 coming off the regional scene who have not been tested, have not developed, are not quality fighters. They're just bodies. And the bodies are filling up the 3,700 fucking ESPN cards that UFC needs to run. If you make it to the UFC...
They got 600 bodies on record on their roster, and that's not including just the top guys. It's including guys that they either plucked from the regional scene here or around in the US or around the world, or they basically stole them so other promotions like a Ryzen, like a Bellator, like ONE FC. Well, I wouldn't say Bellator anymore because
it's dead
Bellator's
now. Rip Bellator.
Yeah. Legends never die, but that promotion just died this past weekend. Still, though, point of the matter is they're either stolen from the regional scene, they're stolen so other promotions won't get to them, or they think that they're just the hottest prospect in the room and they basically can't be stopped.
But even then, even the hot inverted commas prospects haven't developed. A hot prospect, 4 years ago was Chris Weidman. He was coming in at 9-0 off the regionals, and he'd beaten Uriah Hall by this point. He was a big fucking deal when he came into the UFC. No one's a big deal anymore. You come in and you're just another guy, and there's no chance to the promotion the promotion of each individual fight and each individual fighter has dropped off hugely. I remember not long ago, Tim Means had a fight. And it was the most generic shit I'd ever seen someone put up, in a video package. It was the veterans taking on the young guy. And it's Tim Mean isn't a fucking veteran fighter. He's violence with fucking, eyes. He's just a fucking mess. The fact that they didn't put footage of just Tim Means trying to elbow people to death and go, this is why you need to watch that fight. They didn't. They just had, the same 40 seconds of fight footage from his last 2 fights since the Reebok deal came through, and some training. And most fighters are charisma vacuums. No offense, but we all are. We don't know how to cut promos. We don't get told how to sell ourselves because that's not hugely important in the current, like, meta of MMA promotion. So there's no chance for them to develop as a person for anybody to latch onto. And it's deliberate by the UFC. The UFC wants to be the only game in town. If you're a pro fighter, you're fighting for the UFC or you don't matter. And that allows them to get away with what I would call malpractice in terms of booking people to fight inside suspension periods. Like, not long ago, former middleweight champion of the world, the guy, like a company man, a guy who had helped him out of so many jams, fucking Michael Bisping got sacrificed to, what's his name? Wrestler guy, middleweight, was in Shanghai. Fuck!
Let me see here. Because you're basically talking about Michael Bisping. He obviously is a legend. Let's just say he was a legend before he even won the damn middleweight title and then lost it to fucking GSP.
Yeah, Gastelum. They fucking wasted Bisping's last fight against Kelvin Gastelum 3 weeks after he got brained by St. Pierre. Like, what the fuck's the point? If that's how you treat...
It's like you said, it's promotional sacrifice.
Yeah,
they see him as somebody, hey, we have him put on a 5-fight winning streak, go straight to the title, cement his legacy, blah, blah, blah. Here, lose to George St. Pierre, and then we'll call you back in 3 weeks to fly halfway to China to lose to Gastelum, who hasn't meant shit in, the last 8 years that he's been with the roster, and 10 years, really?
Yeah, he hasn't done anything with it. They just wasted him for no reason. Like, who's he lost to? Adesanya, Till, Hermanson, Whitaker, Cannonier. So he's not losing against bad guys, but, like, what was the point of it? Why would you waste Bisping's last fight that way? Why would you burn him out for no reason? And because there's that dream, because there's the dream of make it to the UFC, make it all the way to the championship, you're going to be famous, you're going to have fucking Conor McGregor money. Everybody who fights has exception bias. They think they're going to be that 1%. They think they're going to be that world champ that's going to go all the way to the top. You're fucking not. One person who listens to this fucking podcast maybe will get to the UFC. Maybe.
Or, in the case of professional wrestling,
yeah,
one person that listens to us chat might get to the WWE.
Yeah,
but they have to deal with all the restrictions and basically be put on a fucking muzzle to be told what to do.
Exactly. Like, the dream of being the fucking Rock or McGregor or fucking, I don't know, whoever, is there.
John Cena.
Yeah, is in all of our heads. And it makes us exploitable and usable. And, like, I wrapped up my current relationship with the promotion that I've been with because that was all there was. All it was the dream. This wasn't a place where they were trying to make, like, a show that we could do and, like, not necessarily full-time, but would be acceptable for it to be a job. Like, when I got here first, that was what the promoter said to us all. He said, this is what I want out of here. And it's 3 years later, and he's doing the same speech for the new fucking intake. And he's like, this is a place where you get noticed to get signed. And I go, those are two very fucking different things. I'm fucking out. Because I'm 31. I'm old. And I'm not going to do steroids. And my style is not exactly fucking indie darling style. The Fed's never coming for me. If I'm working at a place that wants me to give up my weekends that I could spend, earning money, making gear. If I'm coming to a place that, has this restrictive fucking culture of what they'll allow on the product because, they want it to be the widest fucking audience possible, and they're scared of, trying anything new. If I'm living under these restrictions and there's nothing for me, why the fuck am I still here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean. I just turned 31 a couple of weeks ago myself as of the time of this recording. Being past the age of 30 is not really good for physical awareness. Shit. I'm 5'3", 170 pounds. How much fucking physical awareness do you think I got?
Yeah. Like, And
But
so,
still, though.
yeah, it's easy. It's easy to fucking get in a young guy's ear and blow him up and say he's going to be the fucking greatest thing in the world, and then use that to not pay him what he's worth, not pay him what he's doing for you. You can see it with a lot of fighters, you can see it with a lot of wrestlers. They'll get gassed up by everybody, and then they won't get fucking paid. But because it's the dream...
come to think of it,
yeah,
you can also see that with boxing too,
yeah.
right?
Boxers...
you've been seeing that with boxing for decades.
Yeah. Boxers, wrestlers, musicians, everybody. It's all... The dream is there, and the fucking people at the top who no longer have that dream, but understand that's the carrot on the stick that they need to keep you around. Because if you all get together and you all think, hold on, I'm being asked to do this like a job, but I have to work full time in order to do it. Those two things don't weigh up together. If I'm putting in full-time hours for fucking hobby pay, what the fuck am I doing? Let alone hobby pay.
Yeah, you're basically wasting time trying to play. I mean, I wouldn't say human chess with somebody. You're basically wasting your time swapping brain cells with somebody for nothing.
Yeah. And it's not... If that's all there is for you, if the only thing that you've got is that dream of being the fucking biggest guy in the whole world, and you're not getting anything now, you're being taken for a ride. I mean that 100%. You need to be getting what you're worth. And you can see that with... So we'll talk about some good promotion now. The current gym that I train martial arts at is Australian Top Team. And the guys who run the Australian Top Team are Suman and Ashkan Mokhtarian. Both of those guys made it to the UFC. Didn't do great, but they're still excellent fighters. They still beat the piss out of, 99.9% of the humans on the world. They made it to the UFC when it kind of meant something. They run a show called Urban Fight Night. Now, when I fought for Urban, we both knew what we were getting into. This was back when I was living in Orange. I knew that they were trying to kill me to pump up their guys. They knew that they were trying to kill me to pump up their guys. But they'd still sort me out. They said, if you sell tickets, you can get commission. If you're coming up on this short notice fight, there's going to be a hotel room for you here. We're going to pay your fuel. We're going to do all this stuff that we're technically not allowed to do because it's an amateur show, but we're still going to do it for you because we understand that you need to get something out of this other than fucking brain damage. And this is, amateur fighting, which is still... there's still that level of exploitation, but I do believe it is important as a developmental tool. And so, while, I'm going in there against fucking Tennessee Atuate, who, after he beat me, went and fought a fucking stadium champ in Thailand and beat him in less time it took him to beat me, and I was just some cunt from Orange. We all know what's going on there. They're trying to, they're pumping up his record with some dude they found in Orange. I still did way better than I was supposed to. We all knew what was going on. Everybody understood. And no one had any illusions. It was like, this is a very hard to win fight for you, Alistair, but you're from Orange and you're not getting offered any fights. So we're going to sprinkle some good shit on you. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of. You don't see that elsewhere. And now that I am one of their guys, they do great work for their fighters. If they're running an urban show, you know who everybody is. And all of their fighters are fucking sponsored by businesses. Fucking one of the guys, Fahud Kaltabar, just got picked up by fucking Lululemon. He's a fucking brand ambassador for them. So he goes around wearing fucking tights and whatever. So, it's a big fucking deal. They understand that they need their fighters in order to make something. Because this is where they came from. They understand what you want out of it. And all of those guys at ATT have the dream to get into the UFC. But they're getting something now. They're getting enough to make it worthwhile, and they're not just being dragged along by the carrot on the stick. So, there we are. Some good promotional practice for you all.
Of course. And I mean, come to think of it, you saying fighters getting promoted like businesses. I mean, we in the United States have something similar to that. It's called the U.S. Open Cup, one of the most prestigious, I wouldn't really say one of the most prestigious, but the oldest club football or association football or soccer tournaments in the world. And everybody's pretty much sponsored by, the amateur teams especially that come into that tournament are sponsored by local businesses or local mom pop shops.
Yeah.
Compared to the second tier and obviously the first tier MLS squads that have a shitload of money. But
Yeah, well, like,
still, though,
these guys
man.
aren't even fucking, like, it used to just be local kebab shops. It used to be fucking Brother Hassan's fucking kebab shops would be looking after, who's the fucking guy? They had like 5 different hitmen's fight out of there, so it was one of the guys who was called Hitman. That was how it used to be, but they've gone on and they built from a little show that was to get their guys' fights, to build up and put them onto bigger shows, to one of the biggest in the country because they always had the money. They always had the money, they always had the sponsors, they were looking after their fighters, and they built them up. And that's how you fucking do it. As a, like, if you don't have venture capital to burn the way that fucking 1FC does, you need to be fundamental. Yeah.
Don't even get me fucking started on that championship.
So yeah, even one championship isn't making money. So either fucking Chatri Sichongdong is some sort of based communist who's burning venture capital deliberately, or he's running a fucking money laundering scheme. Either or, everybody's getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only, like, if you want to be the UFC, fucking go out to Silicon Valley and find some fucking idiot who's dreaming of running a big show. Don't try and run the big show out of your own pocket, fucking, and based on fucking down payments and hoping that you're going to sell enough tickets, because you will not be able to spend enough to outcompete the UFC. No one's going to fucking come to your show. No one knows who you are. They come to places that they know. So you've got to run a show that no one's going to come to. Like, just enough people. Just enough to make that money back, run the next one, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, and build it up. You can't expect it all in one go.
I see, of course.
Or find someone to co-promote with. So, back to Wrestle Queerdom. Effie runs the Big Gay Brunch, which is what Wrestle Queerdom was, except it's been going for 4 years. Effie doesn't pay for it all himself, but he gets his name on it, and he co-promotes it with GCW, a place that is fucking set up and actually knows what they're doing in terms of running events. They have the expertise. They know what they're doing. They understand, like, how to sell tickets to that particular crowd. And it works. It's a great, very successful show.
Yeah, of course it's great, because it basically is a part of something called the Collective.
Yeah.
For WrestleMania weekend, where they have a bunch of great shows. Obviously, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. For me, I always get hyped up when For the Culture happens. And then you got Joey Janela's Spring Break event, and that's supposed to be the highlight of the weekend.
Yeah.
Well, like, the highlight in the case of some weird shit happening.
Yeah.
But a highlight nonetheless.
And you can do this. It is possible to run these shows, but it's not going to happen fucking overnight. You need to build up to something. And the moment you fall behind on the treadmill, you need to get the fuck off the treadmill, and you need to fucking put the money back into it. You need to make sure you build it back up to where it's supposed to be to run the next one. If you try and keep running on that treadmill, try and keeping, like, just staying ahead a little bit of your debts, just staying a little bit ahead, you're gonna fall behind. There will be that fucking reckoning. And thankfully now, it's coming for Lion Fight. I think the culture of, like, mild silence, worry that you're going to spend an opportunity at a big place at a big notice is, like, burnt out. It no longer has the social clout required to be like, just everyone relax, it'll all work out. Enough has gone wrong for them to start, losing that reputation. And I think we need to hit that fucking threshold of people not being scared not scared of burning their own opportunities when they call out promoters on shitty fucking behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that needs to hit a lot earlier in the mind of all fighters. But the problem is, fighters are fucking staunchly individual. We're never getting the fighties here. It's never happening.
Right, of course.
So,
and I mean, come to think of it, I mean, we're getting close to an hour just talking to one another. So, if you were to say one thing to Scott Kent of Lion Fight, what would it be? And if in the case that Lion Fight does die out because of all this promotional malpractice they're doing, what would be the one thing you would say at the promotion's eulogy?
So, for one thing for Scott Kent, you owe tons of people a fuckload of money. Do not run another show. Do not try and get on the treadmill and get ahead of it. Go to work a fucking job. Go fucking be a banker or whatever it was you were before you did this. Sell your fucking car. Sell your fucking house and pay what you fucking owe. Because these people bled for you, and they do not have what you have. They do not have the fucking credit rating that lets them lend a fucking $1 million to rent out a building in Vegas. This is people's fucking lives that get thrown out. Jesse might not have been $5,000 away from disaster, but I know tons of fighters that are. So make this fucking right monetarily, because I do hope that no one ever trusts you to run a fucking show again. So sell what you own and pay the money back. Come to
think of it, he owns the Fremont Street Experience, which is right on the Vegas Strip. So it's going to take a lot of people and a lot of backers to buy that thing off of him if he ends up messing up with Lion Fight, which he's already doing now.
There you go. Sell fucking something. You have it. You don't need it. These people need rent and food. Fuck. As for the eulogy of Lion Fight, it's fucking, here lies another person who had dreams of being Vince McMahon. But you're not. Fucking Vince can't even be Vince anymore. Dana can't be Dana ever again. The fucking circumstances that birthed those two people will never happen again for anybody else. So you might as well settle for being somebody decent and somebody who runs a sustainable show. For the love of fucking God, have the money to run a show.
Wow.
And if you don't have the fucking money, don't run the fucking show.
Exactly. Or if you're basically doing this just to be a hobby, don't run the show, because you're basically wasting everybody's time trying to make this hobby work.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not Cody Rhodes. You're not going to get 20,000 asses in the seats just off your name value alone and with the help of your friends. You're basically doing all you can just to survive.
Yeah,
and it's not really good in the bottom line for everybody trying to work with you.
Yeah. Like, if you want to run it like a business, it has to be a business. It has to be fundamentally sound. There's some fucking weird brain cancer that we've all got with businesses where we're all thinking infinite growth. It just has to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it eats the whole universe, and then eventually it'll make money. It doesn't work. You need to have business fundamentals. I fucking make shorts. I make the shorts by spending less than I sell them for and working out how much I want to get paid an hour. That's fucking fundamentals. And, people look at me and they go, oh, you could get these made in Pakistan. You could get 1,000 made. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know 1,000 people who'll buy my fucking shorts. I know enough to make it worthwhile for me to do it. So I can run a small business. Just understand the size that you're actually capable of doing and keep to that until you have developed the skills or the connections or just the capital to do something else. But don't jump the fucking steps. You can't go 100 miles an hour. You have to go 1 first and then work your way up. There you go. I'm fucking sweaty. I started yelling a bit there.
It's okay, dude. It's okay. You just needed to let it all out, so to speak. Now, considering the fact that you're a 4-4 amateur, and obviously Tapology still has you listed under the nickname Ironbox, I mean, I can't really talk to you about any future fights.
No, not for a little while. My sort of time and focus has been spent on professional wrestling and getting my gear making off the ground, but any professional wrestling matches I have coming up that are actually booked and not just you turned up and helped out, so here's a spot, will be announced on my fucking Twitter, which is at Gentleman's Combat, and then you stop there. So Gentleman's, no space, COMBA finished.
I mean, it's basically like saying combo, but instead of the O, you get the A at the end.
Yeah, and then if you want to follow my Instagram, where you'll see nice pictures, or a 6-second video of me slapping another guy in the face, that's at IronBoxFighter, IronBoxFighther. And again, everything that I'm doing will get announced there. Or if you want to buy some very nice 2000 style Vale Tudo shorts, I am keen as fuck to actually make like an amount of these. So send me an email at gentlemanscombatives@gmail.com. So there you are. That's everything that I do plugged.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, that basically disqualifies me from asking how can the fans contact you. I mean, but of course, you're an amateur fighter. You're a professional wrestler. I'm pretty much afraid to talk about your next fight because, hell, somebody might be the entirety of the New South Wales region of Australia would be listening to this, and they would probably know where you are, want to pick a fight with you at any given point in time.
Look, if anybody wants to actually fight me on a show, they're more than welcome to contact the promoter, because my fucking blue book has expired. I can't fight until I sort that shit out. So feel free to call me out on whatever. It's never gonna happen.
And come to think of it, one more thing. Is there any words of encouragement you would like to say to Jesse Astill just to keep his hopes going up? Because I know that, like Astill, a lot of fighters have been screwed over by Lion Fight. And, it's Lion Fight's fault that they're basically getting shit canned. So is there anything that you would like to say on behalf of Jesse Astill?
On behalf of Jesse, Jesse's fucking, all he's saying is, fucking pay me, Scott, what you owe. Those are his exact words. I did contact him and ask if there was anything in particular that he wanted gone over, and he said, nah, it's all been covered by his Instagram post or just in the Beyond Kickboxing, Beyond Kick article. So, go read the fucking Beyond Kick article if you haven't. You can find out about all the other people that have been fucked over by Scott Kent. And if I was to say anything to Jesse, it'd be fucking get paid before you leave the building. That's about it.
Exactly.
So, one more thing. In Australia, we have a guy who runs wrestling shows sort of as a hobby. I will not mention the promotion for... Hey, no, fuck it. It's FWA, Future Wrestling Association. At his last event, he had out here Lince Dorado, formerly Callisto, I think, and somebody else.
Lince Dorado, Samurai del Sol, aka Callisto.
Oh, well, he had Samurai del Sol and Lince Dorado out here. Now, he, tried a little bit of funny business. He tried to pay them in Australian dollars rather than American dollars. And you know what they fucking did? They dragged him into a back room. They took his license out of his wallet, and they took photos of it, and they said, motherfucker, we know where you live. You will pay us before we leave this building, or someone's coming to see you.
Wow.
They got paid. So, my advice is, next time a promoter says, oh, I'll get you next time, bro, or oh, hold on, I'm having whatever, you fucking get a hold of them, you drag them, you find every other fighter who hasn't gotten their money yet, and sit them the fuck down, take photos of their license, know who they are, so that you can chase up that money and get what you are owed. There you go. Please don't kill anybody. Please don't assault anybody. But, make sure you know where to find them.
Wow. Basically, they had to do like the old mobsters used to do in the movies and basically hold them up for everything they got.
Yeah. Well, they got paid what they were owed.
Wow. But other than that, if y'all want to check out the article, go to beyondkick.com, search for the fall of a Lion Fight, because let's face it, they're having a very big fall right now, and I'm not talking about the season either. And if you want to check out more of what we have over at Focus Fights, the Linktree page is in the Linktree. What the fuck am I trying to say? I have some issues with myself trying to speak sometimes, and I don't even know how to close out my own damn show. But yeah, you can check out the Linktree URL in the description. Other than that, I can just spell it out for you. linktr.ee/focus fights. And you can check out where you can find a podcast, or you can check us out on all forms of social media. Just basically listen to what we have, because I'm not doing this just for clout. I'm doing this just to. I'm not just doing this for clout to get noticed. I'm doing this to get people's stories out there. Oh, and also, if you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, I am at ChrisGary92 on Twitter, because I'm not calling it X. Fuck you, Elon Musk, you rat bastard.
Fuck Elon.
And yes, and I'm on Instagram at ChristianGary1992. If you want to send me DMs or just simply talk to me, I am all ears. I am all available 24/7, just as long as you don't basically try and catfish me or scam me. But other than that, Alistair Ironbox Fleming, or should I say Gentleman's Combat Alistair Fleming, thank you for joining me, and thank you for getting your story out there, man. I really appreciate it, and hopefully those following along with this whole lion fight saga can appreciate it too.
Thank you very much for having me on. I have exactly zero clout myself, so the more people that know what to fucking do and what they're owed as, performers, the better, in my opinion. So, thank you very much.
No problem.